Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to crack the code on something that's super important for your business, but honestly, a lot of people overlook it. We're talking about workers' compensation class codes. So let me just start by asking you this. Could a simple little 4-digit number be draining thousands of dollars from your business every single year? It sounds kind of dramatic, right? But for a huge number of businesses, the answer is a definite and very expensive yes. And look, this isn't some small potatoes accounting error we're talking about. Getting your workers' comp codes wrong can lead to seriously inflated premiums and nasty surprises, like huge bills after an audit. The bottom line? Getting this stuff right saves you real hard-earned cash. All right, so how do you make sure you get it right? Well, it all starts with actually understanding the system. So let's pull back the curtain, decode your policy, and really get into the what and how of these incredibly important class codes. So what in the world is a class code anyway? Well, at its core, it's just a 4-digit number that insurance companies use to label a type of job. And that label is all about one thing: risk. The riskier the job, the higher the code's rate, and yep, you guessed it, the more you're gonna pay. Honestly, the easiest way to think about it is like this. It's basically a barcode for job risk. You know how a cashier scans a barcode to find out the price? Well, an insurance underwriter looks at that class code to figure out the price or the premium for that job. It's really that straightforward. Now, you might be wondering, who even makes up these codes? Well, for most of the US, about 35 states or so, it's an organization called the NCCI. They kind of standardize things. But, and this is a big but, you have to know that some major states like California, New York, and Pennsylvania do their own thing. They have their own rule books and their own unique codes. Okay, so if you go and grab your policy, you're going to see something called the governing class code. Pay attention to this one. This is the big kahuna. It's the main code for your business because it's tied to the biggest chunk of your payroll and basically defines what your company primarily does. And here is where the rubber really meets the road. It all comes down to this simple formula. They take your payroll, divide it by 100, and then multiply it by the rate for that class code. See that last part? That class code rate? That's the multiplier. Even a small difference in that rate can have a huge impact on your final bill. So now that we've got the basics down, let's get into the interesting part, the common traps. This is where so many well-meaning businesses get tripped up and end up making some really costly mistakes without even realizing it. You know, these errors happen for totally understandable reasons. Maybe your job descriptions are 5 years old and people's roles have changed, or maybe the person who set it up in the first place just got it wrong. A really common one is having employees who wear multiple hats. That always complicates things. Let me give you a perfect real-world example. On one hand, you have landscape gardening. On the other, park maintenance. To you and me, they sound pretty much the same, right? But to an insurer, they can be worlds apart, with completely different risks, codes, and, you guessed it, rates. Using the wrong one is a classic mistake. And how common is this particular mistake? Get this, an NCCI study found that a jaw-dropping 73% of businesses put under landscape gardening were later reclassified after an audit. 73%. That's almost 3 out of every 4 businesses getting it wrong. Now, some codes are just bigger traps than others, and the number one offender is code 8810, the one for clerical work. It gets reclassified more than any other code in the system. Why? Because it's meant for employees with strictly office duties. The second that person steps into the warehouse or makes a quick delivery, technically, they could be misclassified. But here's the kicker. You are not going to believe this. Guess which industry gets these codes wrong the most often? The insurance industry itself. I'm not kidding. Which just goes to show you absolutely cannot just assume your policy is correct. You've got to check it yourself. Okay, enough of the horror stories. So what can you actually do about all this? Let's walk through a simple action plan. This is your checklist for making sure your codes are accurate so you can take back control. It really just boils down to 3 manageable steps. Step 1, get your docs in a row. Pull out your policy, your payroll, your employee list, and most importantly, your job descriptions. Step 2, play detective. Go through every single code on that policy and ask yourself, does this match what my people actually do? And that brings us to step 3, which is crucial. Analyze the real day-to-day duties. It's not about the job title, it's about the tasks they perform. So let's bring it all home. When you get right down to it, this whole exercise isn't just about boring insurance paperwork. This is about you, as a business owner, taking the wheel and having direct control over a major business expense. Because the cost of doing nothing, it's pretty scary. We're talking about surprise audit bills that can make your head spin, having to pay back premiums for years of mistakes, or even worse, finding out you have a coverage gap after someone gets hurt. They can even cancel your policy for repeated errors.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought. After everything we've just talked about, the math, the common traps, the shocking statistics, are you absolutely 100% positive that you aren't overpaying? It might just be time to pull out that policy and find out for sure.